Good morning and welcome to our webinar, Build Up Not Out, How Effective Rack Design Can Boost Operational Efficiency and Improve Your Bottom Line. My name is Michael Power. I'm the editor of Supply Professional magazine. We're joined today by Jonathan Hurst at North American Storage, Derek Gould with North American Steel, and also Waleed Uthman, who's also with North American Steel. For today's webinar, we'll aim to wrap up between 45 minutes to an hour. If you have any questions during the webinar, please type them into your question box in the control panel, and we'll answer them at the end of the webinar. So with that, I'd like to turn things over to Sean Schwartz of North American Steel.
Thanks so much, Michael. Appreciate it. Good morning, everybody. My name is Sean Schwartz. I'm the marketing director here at North American Steel. Thank you so much for taking your time out of your busy days to join us here to discuss the concept of building up and not out. First off, I would like to introduce everybody to our panelists once again. If our slides go, there we go. So today we've got, as Michael mentioned, Jonathan Hurst, who is our VP and General Manager of our West Coast Division, North American Storage. We have Waleed Uthman, who is one of our lead project managers and engineers here at North American Steel at our head office in Whitby, Ontario, as well as Derek Gould, one of our top dealer sales representatives here at North American Steel. Right now, I just want to briefly go over our agenda with you, what we'll be covering in today's presentation. Of course, we'll be starting with a little bit of background and history about North American Steel, who we are, where we've come from. We want to talk about the topic of the Canadian industrial real estate industry and how it's just on fire right now and how that affects you and your business and how that affects the racking systems that you're going to be putting into your facilities. From there, we're going to lead into the concept of this presentation, which is building up and not out. How do you maximize your storage capacity in the space you're already in when industrial real estate is at such a premium? So we'll be talking about storage platforms, pick towers, and other various ways of maximizing that storage capacity. We'll talk about how you can protect your racking investment as well. Not just your racking investment, but also the health and well-being of your workers in your facilities, which is obviously a huge liability. And finally, we'll close off with the benefits of domestic racking, domestic manufactured racking in Canada. So what I would like to do now is pass the mic off to Waleed, who will be speaking about the history of North American Steel.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Sean. Again, thank you so much, guys, for giving the opportunity to present here and just to have a quick open-ended discussion about quickly how the world has been evolving around us during the ongoing pandemic and what are the changes that have been happening in the material handling industry for us. Before we get into that, just a quick intro about us, North American Steel. We are one of the leading manufacturers who provides pallet racking and industrial storage shelving, which have offices with the headquarters located in Whitby. Originally, we were incorporated in about 1952 and have been acquired since in 1972 by the current ownership, by the Fabricus family. Since then, we actually have made a lot of advancements. On the right side, you might be able to see a quick chart from the acquisition of our Whitby facility all the way down recently to since this year, we have added on another Calgary distribution center as well, which have increased our manufacturing and warehousing capability to almost 400,000 square feet. That includes our 6 full-scale running plants and DCs that provides all type of racking and storage systems to end-to-end manufacturers across both sides of the country. The best part, we are proudly Canadian owned and manufactured, so all the components are being built and made in Canada for us. Sean, do you mind moving on to the next one? Perfect. So where are we? Pretty much everywhere. Wherever you go, the brackets will say the North American Steel signage. You'll be able to see if that's a freezer storage 3PL provider, service oriented, anywhere you'll be able to see our name over there. The best part, we provide all customizable storage solutions. There is no standard or one size fits all sort of approach. But all these projects that we have been working on, or a lot of them that we are building up right now, are catering for their own customer needs. And that is one of the really critical things that we will touch base as well. I'll showcase with you one of the case histories of a recent project that we had done, and a customer came back within the same year asking us to make certain number of changes that they thought will actually increase their cubic storage capacity. Next slide. Perfect. So we have finally lived through the pandemic area, and right now it's sort of like a post-pandemic and almost like coming to an end zone, which is passing by. The news has been out. The Canadian industrial real estate is actually running out, and there is a very high chance that a lot of the actual golden opportunity and golden ticket places will actually be out by the end of 2021. Recently, I was just reading an article as well and came to know that towards the East Coast area, Nova Scotia, and all these places, the Canadian real estate is actually on fire by more than 20%. That tells a lot. We are talking about to the coast, but imagine what the situation would be right around the GTA area and where the peak towards near the highways. That actually has caused a really havoc in the industry by increasing cost of the vacancy rates and also the leasing problem. Right now, you can get a small decent storage. However, you actually need a really fast distribution network. What does that mean? Is that you need to involve the racking supplier or people like us, consultants, who actually can sit down, understand the needs, and can develop a strategy or can develop a type of the storage system will be tailor-made for you. A quick example, a recent project we have been working on, the customer wanted almost a 500,000 square feet building, but they only ended up getting about 270,000. What would that mean? That they had hopes for conducting their business from a bigger building, but now they only got 50% of it. Yet they actually ended up going with a structural mezzanine and a pick tower platform concept, along with the type of open warehouse shelving and racking design. That did actually provide them about 80% to exactly what they were hoping for, but not exactly to what they were actually wanted. But still, it was a 30% gain on top of what they would have received in a normal day-to-day running warehouse. That not only allows us to maximize the available storage space, but also the custom design and increase the efficiency of their operations, and ultimately being in one of their good books as well. Next slide, Sean. And next slide. Perfect. So the cost, as I mentioned earlier, has been escalating, and it has been increasing on a daily basis right now, especially with the ongoing freight issues. Customers are now more leaning towards filling up their warehouse with the maximum cubic storage because they want to take the advantage of the current steel prices, not knowing what might actually the future holds for them in terms of the material availability. The second most critical thing is a lead time, because even for us, like in many plants, the lead times are actually crossing by a couple of months or a couple of weeks now across the board. So when that happens, the steel shortage is happening. The customers now actually have more problem in determining where exactly their distribution network stands. So there are a number of designs or number of type of things that we actually do, to customize that part and utilize the best possible way, especially to utilize the best possible height system. For that, we have experienced engineering and design professionals in our company as well, which actually provides to cater for that sort of tailor specific needs. Next, Sean. A very interesting example I wanted to share here with you. We recently completed one of the projects for Toyota and made their Eastern Distribution Center in Bowmanville. We built about 120,000 square feet of structural mezzanine with open warehouse shelving on the ground floor as well as on the first floor. Along with that, we also added on about 50,000 square feet of racking. Now, the problem was that initially the type of the system that they had where we literally 100% completely filled their racking system. Within the same year, the consultants from their site came back and said that they weren't actually using even 50% of their capacity of their racking. The reason being because all their 3PL partners or the type of the products that they were getting were actually half-heighted from what they originally had planned the pallet storage for. What we ended up doing was, again, doing a value engineering, and we decreased all the level heights and added on more beam levels for about 50% of their racking. So you can see, like, I mean, all these things actually happened afterwards the initial actual project was installed. That tells us that not only we can actually increase the capacity, or we can increase the actual cubic storage of a warehouse that already has been built, but already we can plan on something ahead of time to work for that as. Up to you, Sean.
My apologies, Wade. There's a bit of a lag on this. If you want me to go back to the slide. Thank you, Wade, for your presentation. We're going to progress, and I'm going to pass this along to Jonathan. But before I do, we're going to be watching a quick video that we've produced, which helps us illustrate the concept of building up. So taking a relatively standard and simple storage system and utilizing the height of your building to maximize your storage capacity.
All right, thanks, Sean. Hi, everyone. My name is Jonathan Hurst. You saw that video there. I mean, that was an amazing system, and that is quite an advanced pick tower catwalk system. And don't be overwhelmed. That you have to start off there. The whole point of this talk is how we get there as our business grows. So the key for any facility is to ensure that you are looking down the road at your changing business needs and establishing a plan for your long game. By establishing a system of design that's scalable, as we saw there, where we start with shelving, and then over time it could grow into a multi-level system with stairs and whatnot. The key is to understand where you're going, and then we can start off on the right path and build you a strong foundation. That includes, knowing where you're going to go, so we can choose the right components now, so you can increase heights, so you can increase your column strength and base plate sizes at the very beginning of your plan. So down the road, you don't have to replace components. You want to make sure your layouts and whatnot are future-proof, so you can grow within your footprint, and we can check things like egress and lighting and sprinklers and all these types of things. So as your system grows, we know that your building is ready to grow with you. Working with manufacturers like NES, we're very experienced in helping establishing these long view plans and getting you set on the right step. Can I have the next slide, please?
Sorry, one moment, Jonathan. It's just a bit of a
No trouble. That's the joy of having 50 people online at once.
Absolutely.
Let's roll one more. All right. So here's a couple shots of a pick tower. Pick towers are basically selective racking or selective shelving that have some additional components to allow you to move in the vertical direction. And when we do that, we have to look at how your material flows. So again, looking long-term down the road is how do you move material in and out of your facility? And then what we do is we implement things that allow people to get to different levels and pallets and room for conveyors and growth and things like that. What you see here is just some of the obvious items like stairs, but also the life safety stuff that we can't overlook. And we always make sure we include this type of thing for, to ensure that your associates can work in a safe environment and ultimately go home at the end of the day. Next slide. So I'm going to talk to you a little bit about two of the major vertical expansion systems that we offer here. One is pick towers and one is catwalks. So these two are often intermixed, and if you don't know what they are, they may seem like they're exactly the same thing. But within the industry, we do differentiate between pick towers and catwalks. So a pick tower or a storage platform is generally incorporating larger open spaces or wider aisles. So again, depending on your workflow and depending on how you move your product now and how you want to move it in the future, we would choose a system that might include conveyors or gravity rollers. It depends on if maybe you've got some packaging or some equipment on the ground level that we want to span across. So we would be looking to a pick tower or a storage platform system with heavier structural components to create these longer open, wider aisles for, as I say, for conveyors and elevators and all these types of things. That's where we really emphasize. Say, a pick tower with structural components. These are generally loaded, with your mechanical equipment, and then everything that happens inside comes down to a hand pick operation. And again, just like you don't set up your kitchen so your pots and your dry goods are all in the same cabinet, these systems allow you to spread the people out so everybody can work efficiently and you can get the throughput you need to run your business successfully. Can I have the next slide, please? So a catwalk system is visually very similar to a pick tower system, but you'll notice the aisles are a lot narrower. It really focuses on the individual getting access to pick the individual component. And we can do things like, loading aisles and unload aisles, and things like that. But generally, catwalks are made with roll formed components or shelving, and you've got narrower aisles, so you could have one or two associates working side by side in the same space. But it does compress and really create a very dense matrix of product storage. And then our job is to make sure that it's accessible, to make sure that we can get pallets of material in so you can load those shelves. And you've got great lighting and life safety devices like sprinklers and smoke alarm systems and egress so people can get out safely. That's what we bring to the table. And to say with a catwalk system, it's a little tighter packed. You can get a lot in a small space. And again, they're very modular and allow and do grow and expand with your business. Again, the key is working with your supply professional to understand how does my product move in one end of the building, out the other, and how can we make that volume increase and move more efficient. That's it for me. Thank you very much. Next slide.
All right, thanks so much, Jonathan. I'm going to pass this off now to Derek.
Awesome. Thanks, Sean. Thanks, Jonathan, on that. You know, for the design of your system, you know, that's just the tip of the iceberg. We have so many great designers within our company here that from the design team, they have the necessary resources to make sure all designs are correctly engineered and they abide by the industry standards and regulations that you're dealing with. You know, knowing each or how each of these considerations apply to your facility will help you be prepared, educated, and confident going into your first pallet racking system design consultation with us at North American Steel. We have our process there that you can see on the right-hand side, you know, the on-site consultations. You know, we also nowadays can do it over Zoom, over any kind of meeting. But the main one is when we go on site and are able to check out the facility. That's great. And especially if it's existing here and just trying to build up, like Jonathan and Waleed talked about. A lot of the considerations we need while going into designing these rack systems, they basically are on the pallet or the product size and type. You know, the weights, the dimensions, those are the essential things that we're dealing with. Another thing definitely is the SKU or the pallet count. That plays a large role in determining the type of racking system. If you have one pallet per SKU, you know, we can utilize our selective racking. But what we're trying to deal with here is when you have several SKUs and you want to utilize a high density storage solution. And that is when we're going with the SKU counts and also, you know, the product flow. So how fast your movers, you know, you have your fast movers, you have your slow movers, that kind of determines where we're trying to set up the warehouse. You know, other things that we'll consider are the environment. You know, is this a cooler, a freezer? Generally, these systems, I don't think I've seen any myself. You know, Jonathan could say, I don't think we'll see any in coolers or freezers for you know, catwalk systems or stuff like that, but it is part of our process. The building structure itself, the column spacing, the ceiling height, your dock door locations, and honestly, just the available space that you have to dedicate for these solutions that we have to work through. Our whole design team will get those from you during the consultation, you know, whether we have AutoCADs or PDFs, and we will design around that and what is needed and necessary. You can move on to the next one. And then this, you know, then we go and it ties into the safety and the rack protection. The warehouses and the distribution centers, you know, they can be hectic, and it's essential to have the solid damage prevention practices in effect to prevent employee injury, to minimize loss, and most importantly, to avoid any kind of downtime in day-to-day activities. Keys to help ensure the maximum uptime and safety for your workers and for everybody within this warehouse. You know, we start with just the rack protection and those features itself, from post protectors, end of aisle protectors. You know, this helps prevent any damage to the post itself from, you know, those big machines these guys are driving around. It really doesn't take much to just bump into one of these frames and take all the structural integrity from it, and then being an issue of shutting down, you know, from one bay to an aisle and waiting for an install crew to come in, replace or repair your damages. What we can also do is severe cants, recessed legs, or double posting. You can see on the right side picture there, that is one of our cant leg designs. It was just, it gives you a little more reach when driving into your systems, and that can help as well. But the double posting on everything while driving around definitely gives a lot more rigidity to the systems and helps prevent some damage. But again, with whatever you're using, any lack in training or just being really aware of the surroundings. Those forklifts, they can almost go through anything. So that kind of brings me into that next one of the safety practices, the training for drivers, new or experienced. It's always great to update them, to remind everybody, and just always have them in the know of what they're using and the proper use of everything. Visibility, the visibility in the warehouse, the lighting and signages down your aisles if it's a one-way, and then that definitely helps protect day to day. The aisle clearances, that's something we would kind of take care of in the initial design process, and because that's based on maybe trucks you're thinking of getting or that you have that are existing, and they need a certain turn radius to properly remove the product from the shelf, or if you are passing in the aisle and that's not a one-way aisle. Then we come down to just the ongoing maintenance and the inspections. Damages, they should immediately be reported, replaced, or repaired, because the continued use of the damages or the damaged racking, that could obviously lead to failure, which is a much greater cost than just replacing them at that time. The rack inspections, they should be performed on a regular basis to ensure that no damage is found, or that it's found and replaced. You can definitely annually, you can do it quarterly, monthly, even weekly. It's suggested just to have a walk around, depending on the size, facility, managers, to just look and make sure everything's operating at the right time, so we can really just jump on anything and everything to keep downtime out of the equation. And I think that's good on my part, Sean.
Perfect, thanks, Derek. I'm actually going to pass this back to Jonathan to discuss the benefits of domestic racking.
Hi, thanks very much. So domestic racking, the benefits of, let's put this into context. I mean, the guys on this end of the call, we live and breathe racking. It is absolutely a major part of our lives and our thinking. And so I often try and use similar applications with other people so they can understand exactly where we're coming from when we talk about knowing where your racking is coming from. And I'll give you a couple examples. And usually it comes down to food. We all have that in common, that we do like to eat. And transparency and quality of the supply of what you are buying is a very strong persuasive device as to what you're going to choose. So I'll give you an example. And I don't know where any of these attendees happen to be, but let's just say that you're somewhere in BC, and you have the option of getting a fresh catch off the wharf, and there's the fisherman that hauled it in that morning. Or you can go to the Costco and you can buy a frozen salmon out of the freezer. Well, they're both salmon. One has transparency. You know exactly you can see exactly the entire path that salmon took from coming out of the water to going into your kitchen. Now, let's say you're in Ontario and you're buying some apples. Are you going to grab a bag of apples out of the grocery store that got maybe shipped up from Costa Rica? Or are you going to lean towards an apple that could have been grown at Algoma 20 minutes from your house, or maybe just on the other side of the city? You're going to inherently lean towards things where you understand where they came from, and there's a connection and there's a transparency of, I understand where it came from and the path it took to get to me. Now, that doesn't seem inherently obvious with pallet racking because, well, a rack's a rack. Maybe it looks like something that's in your garage. But when you get into industrial pallet racking and you're carrying loads that could be as much as maybe a half-ton truck on every beam level, times 3, 4, 5, 6, 8 levels high, you're talking about a lot of weight. You're talking about putting or ensuring the safety of the associates that have to work around them, that are coming to a job, that are relying on the owners and operators, the purchasers, to put them in a position that keeps them safe. North American Storage is a big proponent of transparency and quality. And what that means is we hold ourselves accountable to the industry and to the end users to source steel that we know where it came from, to provide racking hardware and replacement parts from local sources across Canada to ensure that you have the ability to make repairs as incidental damages happen, to grow, and the components that you buy 2 years from now will work with the components that you purchased when you first started up. Our name, our brand has been around in Canada for over 50 years. It has an inherent value. We've walked through buildings with inspectors where they're talking to, say, maybe the client or the operator of the system, and they're saying, well, what about this? What about that? What are you doing? And they say things like, well, we're working with North American Steel to get this rated and repaired. That's good enough. It had that brand, that knowledge, that transparency of our process is well known enough that it carries a value, not only with people that are looking at your rack and working with your rack, but people that may want to buy it down the road. The key is that we're a Canadian-based company and we employ Canadians, and it's important to us that every one of those workers can come and work in a safe environment and go home to their families at the end of the day. So that's the importance of domestic racking. It is not like buying a toaster online that's going to work anywhere, wherever it's coming from and wherever you happen to be using it. Canada is a very big country, and the way that we set up a rack to carry a 2,500-pound pallet in Moncton is not the same way or the same rack that we're going to use to carry that exact same item, maybe in Richmond or out on Vancouver Island or up north in Yellowknife. We cover all those areas, and we have the intimate knowledge of our many years of experience to know that what is right for that area, and not only now, but in order to support you going years down the road. So please consider, where is your racking coming from when you're considering a partner in which to purchase and design your system, because it's not just about the first day it gets dropped off, it's about the 20 years that we're going to work together down the road to grow your business. So, thank you.
Thank you so much, Jonathan. Thank you, Derek. Thank you, Walid. All of you for your amazing insight into this presentation. And of course, I want to thank everybody here for your attendance. This wraps up our presentation, but we're not done yet. We want to open the floor right now to any and all questions that any attendee may have. Please type your questions. We'll give you a few minutes to type those out into the chat box. We'll see it on our end and for you, and we'll get all of that answered for you.
In the meantime, I guess, Sean, while we can receive some questions, I just wanted to highlight another similar part of the project that I was mentioning earlier, that one of the customers did added on to a couple of extra levels for the rack. Well, we actually have done something similar for the pick tower part of the mechanism as well, that Jonathan was highlighting, and actually is doing right now, and we are doing that right now as well. One of a similar really big multi-million-dollar client approached us recently, and they wanted a similar type of open warehouse shelving design. However, they weren't really sure like how their needs would be in the upcoming years right now, depending on their market needs and all that. They were dealing with about 10% of small parts and components for their warehouse distribution area. What we ended up doing was we ended up having extensions, or we extended the lower frames high enough that in future, after 2 years or 3 or whatever, how longer it might take them to understand their needs, and if they feel like that, yes, we actually need one more level, we could easily adapt to it, and we could easily add on to that as well. So just wanted to share like one more example as well. Like all these customizations, everything is purely and solely possible whenever we are thinking about the futuristic goals, whenever we are planning on how exactly a customer is going to get much more beneficial goal in terms of the dollar that they're spending right now for all the future upcoming needs as well.
Perfect, thank you, Walid. We actually have a few questions coming in right now. The first one we have asks, have drones changed your designs? Like to open the floor to Waleed or Jonathan or Derek.
Well, Jonathan Hurst, I'll respond. Drones in particular have not changed the design specifically because there's just not a lot. We do focus very much on loading the shelf and unloading the shelf, and the drones that we see the most of are typically more on the delivery end of things. We do see companies that have used drones within facilities for various monitoring and data collection. But we do actually see, along the same lines, a significant increase in the automation of warehouses, not only in large pallet handling where you have automatic guided vehicles that will take pallets into systems and put them away and bring them back. We see a lot of computers assist systems that ensure that the right product is picked and packed with the order that goes. And we're also seeing a lot of automation in environments that are typically not very conducive to having people in there. And I'm talking about freezers and things like that, where you can go and create a freezer that could be, 100 feet tall, and they will automate the process of picking those pallets and bringing those pallets down to an individual who could then process it by either loading it or unloading. And that move to automation is getting more and more advanced and more complex. And, at North American, we often collaborate with a lot of these automation specialists to turn their technology into, to provide the structure and the foundation for that technology to operate. So I hope that answers your question.
Perfect. Thanks, Jonathan. We've got another question here. It says, I have racking in my facility. What do I need to do to be compliant in the eyes of a provincial OH&S inspector visit?
I'll jump on that one too. So you have to understand, and I don't know where you're located in Canada, but every province has provincially driven occupational health and safe guidelines for pallet racking. So the first key would to be educate yourself on who the body is that may be inspecting and what they need to see, and then bring in a pallet racking technical representative to assess the condition of the rack. And in general, across Canada, you're going to need a few things on hand for any level of inspection, and this is applicable anywhere. You're going to need a layout of the building that shows where the rack is in that building. You're going to need some sort of documentation, and it goes by many different names: manufacturer certs, pre-start health and safety, PSRs. You're going to need something that would inform the person on the floor how much that rack that's standing there can take. And you essentially have to demonstrate that there's enough information there for them to look at what's on their forklift, understand how much it weighs, and can it safely be put away. So if you have something like that, either through labeling or signage, and you've got the documentation to back it up that it was engineered for those weights, you have a layout of your facility so you know where the racking is located, and you can demonstrate at some level that you have an inspection program where maybe part of your health and safety program once a month or something like that. Somebody's walking around and looking to ensure the racking is being used as it was intended and it's still in good shape. So the specifics are provincially are very much driven by provincial needs, but that's a pretty high level generic rack safety program that you could present pretty much in any province and would get you where you need to go. Those are the primary components. And if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out and contact us, and we can provide you with next steps.
Perfect. Thank you, Jonathan. Another question here says, can you share what percentage installs versus retrofits, or what has the trend been? I think maybe we can probably get some feedback from Jonathan and Waleed as well. You know, we work in kind of 2 different parts of the country, so it would be interesting to hear from all of you guys.
Yeah, I'll take over here. It's Waleed again. It actually has been sort of like both. I would say in terms of the percentage, I'll say since pandemic, we actually have seen more to 80% or 75 to 80% growth in terms of the new installations and greenfield projects, as opposed to like having 20 to 25% in the retrofits. And when I speak the retrofit, I also mean the new additional changes. One of the examples that I had given you earlier is that customers calling us back to add more beam levels depending on their needs, to reconfigure different sections of their racking bays, depending on, again, like what type of inventory they are now getting. Many of the customers felt that the topmost level, they could actually gain more pallet positions on it. So we actually sometimes have to re-engineer all the type of the rackings that we already had installed over there, as per the new building code and set it, and then we provide them the updated drawings, and so that they can add one more level on it, thus obviously increasing a lot of pallet positions. But majority, I would say, actually has been new installations, and they have been working from coast to coast. We have been reached out by numerous number of people, customers, to actually provide us with the designs and to start working on a new designs and projects, which actually will happen a year from now. So you can already see like the initial thing that we were mentioning about people or in the industrial space in Canada running out right now, how much actually of that has been happening. We are facing that as we are speaking as well. Derek, do you want to put something as well from the dealer's perspective as well?
Yeah, I can chat a little bit about on the dealer side of things. Definitely right now in the industry, definitely that's gone on for, you know, over COVID and that, we're seeing a lot more on our side of things retrofit. I would almost say, you know, reverse that percentage that Waleed gave for the larger projects, and for us, we're probably doing almost 80% retrofit, or you know, changing around rack systems or optimizing what they have. You know, it's a lot of going into these buildings, these warehouses, assessing what they have, what's worked for them previously, and why they have the systems they have, and really how we can try to optimize it. I mean, we have also, you know, the new projects are definitely these customers that are purchasing, you know, a little bit of extensions on their warehouse, or, you know, 2 minutes down the road, they found another small facility that they can just put the exact same systems, whether it's, you know, selective, whether it's double deep, whatever's working for them, and just growing in that fashion as well. But there is a lot that has come through on, like we've chatted about earlier, on the pick systems, on the catwalks, stuff like that, to really condense their warehouses. And that's what we found on the dealer side of things, for sure.
Perfect. I actually have another question here. Interesting. It says, where do I start if I don't know where my pallet racking was originally made?
Well, I think the best start would be to bring in a representative that has some experience. You know, Canada has a very colorful history of a number of different pallet racking manufacturers over the last 40, 50 years. And, you know, we've seen over that time a number of American and Canadian manufacturers try new styles and run different product lines. And ultimately they may, some of those companies have gone away. Some of those companies' product lines have been absorbed by existing manufacturers. So the key is to understand the style of rack, and then we can narrow down its source, And you know, hopefully it's a compatible system that's with products that are currently available. The fly in the ointment to that is when we see racks brought in from other locations, they are very unique and often are not in any sort of compliance with a standard of fit with anything domestically available. So it's sometimes you're going to find that if the racking came from a non-domestic source, that there is no parts available. Most domestic racking, certainly the higher volume racking, is likely traceable back to the original manufacturer through small details, hole placement, hole shape, things like that. Base plate design, we can typically trace it back to where it came from, and move forward from there as far as finding something that's compliant. And of course, there are a few legacy designs out there that we do try and support. But I guess the first step would be to call somebody in. Let's get some photographs and some measurements. We can compare it to our archive of various manufacturers' products, and we can find out where you're starting from, and then we can talk about where we're going after that.
Great, thanks, Jonathan. Got another one here. Can I repair damaged pallet racking?
I mean, I can start off quickly on that one. There's definitely ways to repair it. I mean, with our designs and what you're getting from when we're going with new material, we have our limited warranties and stuff like that, but generally changing out what is damaged depending on the severity of it will most likely be more beneficial than just repairing. But I mean, again, it really depends on the severity of that damage. If it's on, you know, the lower part of the frame, if it's on parts of the bracing, if it's a beam and a connector, they all do have their own situations. I'm not sure what Waleed, Jonathan, what do you guys feel on that topic as well?
Well, I think you're on the right track, Derek. You know, that you have to balance the cost of repair versus the cost of replace, and it's not just the cost of bringing somebody in to do the work, but the cost to your business. So if you have, say, a selective system, just general rack, 2 or 3 levels, 4 levels, you know, less than 22 feet high, you know, things like beams and whatnot, they're very easy to replace, and even a small dent can create a level of ambiguity as to exactly what the safe loading for that component is. It's cheap and easy to replace. Even for frames, which are anchored down and seem a little bit cumbersome, in most cases, there's more reassurance to the end user to replace that with something new than there is to maybe bolt on some kind of crutch or a straightener or try and knock it straight. And now you're like, well, I think it's okay now. So the only time that we really dig into repair kits is if, let's say, going back to what we were talking about with a pick tower. You know, once you create a system of that level of complexity, once it's in, that frame is pretty much in, because we're going to have run lighting and electrical and sprinklers and all and communication cables through all the racking. So we're really not going to get that frame out. In cases like that, then we would structurally design a replacement or some sort of repair and then in doing so and overseeing the installation of it, sign off on that from an engineering level and return it back to an as new condition. And that really is what ultimately, as an owner operator, you're looking to do. Is you don't want these hidden half jobs these unknowns in your system. If it is something that has to be repaired, you want it done professionally. But in most cases, it's a lot quicker to have a crew get in, change it, and get out and get back to your business of running your company. So that would be my comment on repairs.
All right, great. We have a couple more and got a little bit more time left. So if anybody has, a couple more questions I want to submit, feel free. But I've got one here. Do I need a permit for pallet racking, and what do I have to provide?
I'll just jump on in quickly over here. So permits generally are required nowadays for majority of the municipalities going across Canada. So there are a few of the exceptions depending on like what city we are applying the project for that consider the racking more so as an industrial furniture. When that comes under that particular part of the clause, they usually await and they don't request us to file for a permit. However, whenever we talk about the platforms, like one of the ones that we were showing earlier for the PIC towers or storage platforms, since that is now including other trades as well, for example, lighting, sprinklers and all that, we actually have to go through a permit process through the city or the municipality where we're installing the project. So there is no yes or no answer clear to that. I would suggest whenever there's a project that we might be working on, please do let us know, give us a quick call, and we can work on that as well. And we can determine if the city has recently adjusted to their new guidelines and if they are requesting a permit, because many of the cities actually starting from 2021 has added racking as a part of the permit process as well. From this point onward. So it's an ongoing process that keeps on getting evolved, and new restrictions, new clauses comes in, just the way the building codes keep on getting updated as well for every few years. So we actually have to double check that, and we can certainly help with that as well.
Perfect. Jonathan or Derek, do you have anything else to add to that point?
I think Wally covered it there. Again, just check with your local municipality or with your local representative in North American. It really does depend on where it is, and it can vary within a large municipality. I will say this, as you're gathering information for your facility, just be aware that every city is going to be different. So the pallet racking requirements for permits are specific to the municipality. So if you're in BC, your requirements in Langley will be different than the requirements in Richmond, and different from the requirements in North Van. If you're in Edmonton, those requirements may be different if you're in the city center or outside of town. Or if you're in Ontario, Brampton versus Kingston may have slightly different requirements or forms or documentation that has to be provided. So, again, partner with a good professional and talk to the municipality having the jurisdiction of where you're doing your project.
Perfect. Thank you, guys. And I'll end this off with one last question that we have here. It's actually a perfect segue. Do you have more information online I can review later? And I could take this one. Yes, absolutely. You can always visit us online at www.niseco.ca. That's our official website. We have a plethora of information on all of the various systems and product lines that we offer and manufacture here at North American Steel and at North American Storage. You can also contact us directly at sales@niseco.ca. That's NASECO.ca. If you can't find the particular information you're looking for, or if you wanted a more tailored presentation for any of your upcoming projects, or if you wanted to discuss any of your upcoming projects with our team, we service coast to coast, as we've said in this presentation. So no matter where you are, our team can support you and will support you. So feel free to contact us. Jonathan, Waleed, Derek, I don't know if you have anything else you wanted to add before we close up.
No, not at the moment from myself. I think the help obviously from Jonathan and Waleed in that presentation, yourself, Sean, covered a whole bunch, and I'd be lying if I could say I could add more information than than Jonathan and Waleed.
Okay, so again, thank you so much. Appreciate having us over here, and please feel free to contact us. I believe Michael probably will be able to share our information as well, our emails as well. So if there's any opportunity, any questions, permitting, the engineering specs, any addition, subtraction that you guys need to do, or if there's any industry professionals who have any upcoming projects that they might need any help with designing the type of the customized solutions, please do reach out. We would be love and happy to help right away.
I'll just close by saying thanks to everyone for attending. We really do appreciate talking to new audiences and getting a feel of what the market is like out there. If you do have any questions, please feel free to contact myself or my colleagues. Certainly do want to thank Michael for setting this up. And again, if you have any questions, please reach out. Thanks again for your time, everyone.
Well, thanks everyone. That wraps up our questions and the webinar. I'd like to thank our panelists, Jonathan, Derek, and Waleed, for sharing their insights today, and also for Sean for taking on the moderating and handling the questions. And thanks to our audience as well for your time and attention. You should all receive a recording of the webinar in the next day or two. If you don't, please reach out to me and I'll make sure that you get one. My email is michael@supplypro.ca, so MICHAEL @supplypro.ca. And yeah, with that, thanks again and have a great rest of your day.